1 week, more than a week since new DuckTales, and I'm bored. When will this be over? I hate hiatuses. I hate them so much. Then again, I used to watch Steven Universe, so that was way worse. This, at least, we know eventually it'll come back. Eventually, right? Right?
I mean, David Tennant is recording in his closet, so...
Then again, where can you record these days right now, so...
Things that man does for us, I tell you. Well, hello, everyone. We have gathered here for something a little different.
And now for something completely different.
So, as we mentioned in the last video, we know that you guys leave questions and comments on the videos, and as I said, we would like to respond to them, but since it's on Zen's channel, we didn't feel it appropriate to answer as Zen. So instead, we decided to compile a list and pretty much pick and choose what we felt we could address in this video. So, without further ado, let's address some questions and comments. First, on-screen death in the show. Don't forget, definitely clone Gyro and maybe clone, maybe real, we lost track Gyro. I don't know, do clones count? Now a bunch of clone enthusiasts are like, call me a hater.
I mean, it's a morally ambiguous question, but I think the fact that it does, that they do acknowledge that they lost track if the real Gyro was among the ones killed or not. I think that lends credence to this is an on-screen, this is a death.
I guess. I mean, especially if one of them actually was the real Gyro. In which case, dark.
I mean, I don't know.
I mean, technically, I guess the book wouldn't even count as a real death because it wasn't real.
No. Because it wasn't to be fair, Huey does have poor imagination. So.
Why, Huey? Why?
Are you guys aware that the season is going to be Huey's arc, but someone pointed out online that for most of the seasons, while the show did focus on one of the triplets and also focus on one of the adults as well?
I believe we touched upon that because I did read that comment before. I believe they said, definitely it's Huey's arc this season, and we kind of have a few adults for the contenders of who's going to be the focus.
Yeah. Because, I think we did discuss this a little bit during Moonvasion, how, it is kind of a triplets arc, but there's also, maybe, one or two other characters that have a, arc going on, too. That's definitely a thing that could be going on. I feel like, I don't know if I'd say it's a Donald arc. I mean, definitely Donald is getting, some important stuff. But I feel like there is also the potential for Mrs. Beakley and for Gyro. Given, they've kind of had big moments in, either a foul-centric episode or... the main arc of looking for the treasures.
It's possible. I mean, if I had to pick my contenders for this season, it'd probably be between Donald, Launchpad, and Beakley. Depending on whether or not they bring back, Smart Launchpad and what leads up to that, whether they delve further into Beakley's backstory regarding Webby and maybe her parents, and then, of course, Donald... now that his family's back together, now he's trying to, maybe move on from that. Because he met Daisy, so maybe he can finally, branch out on his own.
And being that this is a foul-centric thing, I think very much Mrs. Beakley has a big stake in this, too. I feel like we're going to learn more about her and her past.
Mm-hmm.
And I think her past is probably going to have some connection with Foul at some point, because it's because they already set up that there already is a history that she's not telling, because the harp kind of pointed that out when she was when
she's fibbing. Yeah, I think it's pretty much a given that we're definitely going to head down that path, but as to whether or not they address that in this season or the following, I guess is yet to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
For all we know, it could be a conglomerate of, arcs all at once. I mean, wouldn't be the first time,
Yeah, I mean, that happened last season, definitely with Louie and Glomgold having their whole thing intersect, plus you had Della.
Yeah.
So, everything kind of came together, you know, in that.
We came together in a neat little package.
And then it'd say, like, yeah, definitely the first season was as much Scrooge's arc as it was Dewey's. Mm-hmm. And also a little bit like Webby and Lena.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. Frank just confirmed Lena is officially Lena Saberwing now. Her and Vi's dad's names are Tyrion Ty and Indigo Indy. Granted, it was implied they adopted her, but to have actual confirmation... Yeah, that's sweet. I'm like... especially given that they came out, like, originally as frenemies. Or not even frenemies, like... that Lena was incredibly distrustful of Violet. So to see them like not only like really getting along now, but now they're adopted sisters. That's awesome.
Yeah, I love that. It's great. And Lena finally has a family that isn't trying to murder her.
Yes. Or trying to put her back in the amulet for some reason.
And Webby's got a gang now.
I've got a gang.
I never had a gang before.
I also love her dad's names. So her dads are Tyrion Lannister and Inigo Montoya.
Indigo.
Well, we don't know if that's how it's pronounced.
Well, her name's Violet.
Okay, fine. I can see. You couldn't let me have this, goddammit.
No.
My name is Inigo Saberwing. I am your father. Perpetual die. Do you ship it? Well, since this was a comment on the Junior Woodchuck episode, I'm going to assume you're asking if we ship Huey and Violet. I guess. If I'm being quite honest, though, I'm not really, like, shipping any of the kids. I remember reading from Frank at one point that he didn't have any plans to, like, pair any of the kids up with any, like, you know, kid romance or anything. He wanted to focus on everyone just being a family, which, honestly, I think is for the best. Plus, we got plenty of adult ships to choose from. Mm-hmm. You know, we have Scrooge and Goldie, Donald and Daisy. I think a lot of people actually like Launchpad and Della, which I guess makes sense.
You gotta give it a couple episodes, though, with that one. Like,
yeah.
we need to see something that would, like, an episode that strikes a chord with both of them. They're like, oh, maybe there's more to them than they thought.
I'm more shipping Beakley and Launchpad. Especially after the,
after he corrupted her with the Darkwing Duck.
Yes.
I mean, it's a nice bonding moment, don't get me wrong. Just, they seem like... I mean, they have that one thing in common. It just seems like they'd be too opposite to actually work as a romantic couple.
Maybe if
I wouldn't be surprised if she was like twice his age.
If Negaduck comes back this season, we could see like another Beakley Launchpad team up.
Oh God! Can you imagine? She just shows up with a real Darkwing Duck, and they like have a Darkwing Duck fight. Oh God! I kind of want to see that now.
Thank you for your understanding and appreciating all the in-jokes, as well as not being confused as to what's going on in the beginning. Way too many others didn't and were. This is referring to the Quack Pack episode, because apparently, I don't know why people didn't get like what was going on within like the first because like you should have like in the first like 5 minutes you'd be like, wait a minute. Why is this a sitcom all of a sudden? Why is there canned laughter? Like, why are they dressed in the original DuckTales, you know, costumes from the original series? Like, there was clues saying that something is up here. Also, I mean, the three of us have seen this trope before in like other shows where like all of a sudden it starts off like an entirely different format, and like usually there's like something wrong. Like we've seen this in like Doctor Who and like several other shows that it's like, what's going on here?
Well, I'm guessing the reason is one of two reasons. One is those people either don't watch near as much television as we do, or you know aren't familiar with Quack Pack or any of the old DuckTales stuff. Or the other reason is we're just old. And everyone else are youngins. They didn't grow up with 90s sitcoms and you know and have the tropes ingrained within their DNA.
Or maybe they didn't watch the original DuckTales, or maybe they had some familiarity with it, but they're not like in depth. Like,
yeah,
we're just very old. I am so old.
I mean, plus we're nerds. We're nerds.
Yes.
Because when we first started this, I tried to go in a little blind, knowing only what I remember growing up. But I quickly realized that that wasn't going to cut it, because there was so much, like, so many references and so many nuanced, like, you know, references both to not only the old show, but to the other
comics,
the old other Disney Afternoon stuff. I'm like, you know what? This would be a good talking point. So I'm going to research the hell out of everything, so we always have something to talk about. Hence why Doug and I suffered through the entire run of the original DuckTales shortly after the second season wrapped up. And I say suffered because, honestly, when you're an adult and you look back on that stuff, some of it's hard to sit through, honestly. Because, like, you see this superb writing and characterization and everything, and then you see this, which has a lot of 90s and 80s isms, and it's like...
It's a product of its time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this one, yeah, like, seeing the new DuckTales, I feel that one is going to age a lot better.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Poor literacy shirt is cool. Thank you for noticing. Yeah, obviously, we're all big fans of Linkara, plus which, when I was, watching the Quack Pack episode, I'm like, because it feels like it's going to be a big 90s thing, I felt like this was only appropriate.
Dude! 90s DuckTales was awesome!
Maybe not that awesome, but...
I wonder how the other Disney Afternoon characters will make their appearances. Good question!
Yes.
So yeah, we were looking at the poster that was released for the new season. So far, we've met everybody with the exception of two groups. One is the cast of Tailspin. I'm not talking about Don Carnage. I'm talking about Baloo and Rebecca, possibly Kit, and I forget who the girl's name was, but those characters, because they kind of showed them, or at least hinted at them in the poster. And then the other one is Goslin, Darkwing Duck's adopted daughter. So definitely I'm interested to see that, because with Cape Suzette, they've alluded to that a lot. They've shown them there briefly. It was during the Harpies episode, but they didn't really you don't really see Cape Suzette or any of the characters or anything. At the most, they reference it, but we've yet to actually see the characters, and I really want to see the characters. I want to see Baloo.
They've referenced this from day one, from the first episode. Although it's like a two-parter, but
well, all the same, yeah. No, in the whole premise, that gets them, to need the babysitter and go to Scrooge, is because they try to sneak away to Cape Suzette.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering how that's going to play into everything, because again, they have a lot to work with in terms of Cape Suzette. Not only Don Carnage, but Shere Khan too. They could very well have an episode where Fowl tries to either recruit him or works with him or something.
Or maybe they actually, remember, they're still doing that scavenger hunt, so maybe there's an item there that's on the list that's in Cape Suzette somewhere. And
that would make sense.
And they're trying to find, the cast of Tailspin to kind of help them track down, where it is or whatever.
I suppose it makes sense.
Like Launchpad has, has a connection to them, somehow, because he's a pilot, and the Baloo is also a pilot.
That's what I keep saying.
They're all pilot buddies from, an airline Air Academy or something,
I'm saying, either Baloo's going to know Launchpad or Della, because it would make sense.
Yes.
I feel like they're not going to tread too much into Tailspin, though, because, A, we've already got a villain from Tailspin, and B, I feel like they wouldn't want to take too much from Tailspin, they don't want to take away too much from DuckTales to focus on Tailspin. They want to keep it, a nice cameo, but, not take away too much from, the actual DuckTales.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just thinking, there would be, an episode that would be set in that, be in that location, but that would be about, that would be just about it.
No, but I don't see them necessarily, maybe one more villain from, Tailspin, just for recruiting, like you said. But, yeah, I don't see them going, too much into that.
I mean,
Yeah.
I just, like, don't get me wrong, I like the cameo from Rescue Rangers. I understand why they had to use them at limited capacity, because A, it makes sense in continuity of those characters, and B, because of, you know, the legal stuff that's wrapped up with them at the moment, they couldn't really show a lot of them. But I didn't think it was that case with Tailspin, so I don't know. I mean, they obviously have to totally recast the voices of the characters if that's the case. But I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they'll surprise us. They always surprise us with how they incorporate them. And as for Gosalyn, I mean, she's easily the easiest character to write into the show. Because, I mean, in the original, her grandfather was murdered by gangsters, you know, for this invention or whatever. And when Darkwing was trying to find the killer, he ended up bonding with her and then eventually adopted her from the orphanage. So easily it could be a scenario like that. Like maybe she's like off to like look for who murdered her parents or relatives or whatever, and then they cross paths and then he ends up adopting her. I mean, it's like I said, it's very easy to write her in.
Yeah. When I saw the introduction of Gadget, I was thinking, so Rescue Rangers is now the secret of Nim.
Oh boy, I'm getting flashbacks.
You know, it's funny because the way they set up Rescue Rangers, I'm like, okay, I can accept this as an origin story because, like, yes, lab experiments who got like super intelligent and then they build like the contraptions and stuff and they all escape. Like, okay, I get that. I can totally see that.
It's a less dark Secret of Nim.
Oh God,
Yeah.
I still like. Don't get me wrong, I love that movie, but I can't watch it sometimes because it's like, as a little kid, you see a lot of that dark imagery, and it's like stuff you see at a Nightmares, basically. Don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful movie, I love it, but the scene where they're like injecting the rats and they're like, you know, mutating, it's just like, ugh, I can feel it in my bones. Thank God it wasn't like that with them. At least they came with jumpsuits.
They did the experiments off screen.
Wonder how much money Fowl is making from Funzos.
Yes.
What have we told you about threatening the day manager?
Well, they gotta make their money somehow. They gotta be financially supported somehow. So.
Yeah.
And considering Scrooge just spent the equivalent of 3 million tickets. Oh my God. I just love it. Scrooge basically financed Fowl.
That's Funzos, where fun is in the
zone.
I gotta say though, I'm like still curious as to how they're gonna incorporate Phantom Blot into everything. Cause when they showed him briefly as Funzo, I'm like, okay, is he gonna do anything? No, he's just gonna be background. Okay, whatever. I guess he runs the racketing office or something, or gets all the funds. It's the equivalent of the casino in Pokemon.
Oh, so it's a front, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a front, yeah.
Pretty much.
Yep.
Funzo's the front.
It's the legitimate business in which they use to launder their funds. It's kind of amazing too that, you know, as much shit has gone on that they're not aware of. And like, especially how Louie's able to take advantage of one of their employees.
I imagine Jane, like, probably doesn't even know any of that stuff's going on. She's just, like, trying to make a buck.
And yet she helped Louie out for Louie's 11. Well, how do you explain that?
They're friendly with each other. They've established that. Like, she knows that he is, like, getting free drinks, and she doesn't care. She's probably not paid enough to care.
Yeah, right.
She works
in why would she...
She works in the equivalent of a Chuck E. Cheese. I can't imagine she's getting paid that much.
Yeah.
But what does she stand to gain from that heist? Not even really a heist. It's just more of a, you know, trying to get them in.
Point.
Okay, fair enough.
Her for, like, you're a waitress. You get what you can. I'm curious as to what the Russian Gadget hack wrench cult thought of the Rescue Rangers being in this episode, LOL. I never imagined Rescue Rangers of all things had such a large fan base. I found multiple full online comic sequels to the original show. Yeah, I actually did a little research with this. It turns out Gadget does in fact have a cult surrounding her. It's like a small group in Russia. They consider her to be like the sister of God or something. Like, she's a goddess, and they put up pictures to her, and they worship her and everything, and, like, they hold meetings and stuff. Like, thankfully there's, like, no blood rituals or anything that I know of anyway. It just seems like a harmless, like, semi-furry cult, maybe. But, I don't know, I imagine they would like this just because, you know, it shows her, and it shows her being badass. So, yeah, I guess they would like it. And I mean, hey, to each their own. It's all good.
It appears they dumbed down Steelbeak to make him the equivalent to Launchpad and Fowl, as some of the show crew have mentioned a bit ago, that each of the main cast will have an equivalent to them in Fowl, in a way. So, I don't necessarily think that Steelbeak was dumbed down, given that he was not always the brightest bulb in Darkwing Duck. Like, I haven't seen all of Darkwing Duck, but I've seen enough, you know, episodes with him to kind of get a feel for him. It's like, yeah, I mean, I guess he's not quite as competent as he was in Darkwing Duck, but at the same time, like, he's more, I guess this is more, he's a hothead in this.
I guess, but
Yeah.
I did notice the definite drop in IQ, though, because granted, like, Steelbeak definitely wasn't the smartest, but he was at least good enough to be Fowl's top agent, and suave enough where he could schmooze over, like, you know, women and whatever person he needed to get his heist, to get, like, you know, his scheme done. So, definitely with this, like, again, they made him the equivalent of Launchpad, which means he's, you know, like he's basically, I equivalent him to old Launchpad from the old DuckTales, because that Launchpad was also dumb, but he was also arrogantly dumb. Like, you know, he doesn't acknowledge really that he's dumb, and he gets, like, pissed off when people insinuate otherwise. It's not like with this Launchpad where, like, yeah, he knows he's dumb, but he's cool with it.
He owns it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't you love the Louie and Webby being sweet to each other and lots of shipping? So this one's in regard to the Harp of Nirvana episode. So I guess the whole thing with Louie and Webby, you know, their whole interaction throughout that episode. With him being the skeptic and her being the optimist, and then them switching roles toward the climax.
I mean, yeah, that is very interesting. That's a lot different shows, a lot of growth from Louie. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I still more see, if they were to ship anybody, it would be Webby and Dewey.
Yeah, I kind of see that a little more because they complement each other a lot more. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I do like the different dynamics that they have. Like, she's able to, like, win him over with, like, her optimism and, you know, wanting to know more about the fantasy side of things, while he gives her a more realistic view of stuff and, you know, gives her more practical skills. Mm-hmm. So, again, it's a nice compliment from, like, both of them. So I can go with either or.
One of the show crew, Frank Adonis, mentioned online that Penumbra also hates fish-like creatures like Della in this episode. So it looks like they might tackle Della's dislike for fish again later on, and Della and Penumbra have another weird reason to be best friends.
Best friends!
Well, it makes sense for Penumbra because she's never seen a fish. Mm-hmm. So I imagine she'd easily get freaked out by it. But I would like to know the story why Della hates fish so much. Especially considering her brother's a sailor. So you know she's had to go out on the water plenty of times. Mm-hmm. Plus I'm certain they've been underwater to certain places.
Maybe a fish stole something of Della's, I don't know.
Maybe a deep childhood trauma.
It's like Indiana Jones, she fell into a pit of fish.
Fish. Why did it have to be fish? Oh, fish.
It kind of reminds me of... It kind of reminds me of the old Power Rangers show where they show that Billy the Blue Ranger was actually afraid of fish. But that's because he was, like, playing around in the lake and, like, stuck his finger in and the fish actually, like, bit him on the finger. Maybe it's something like that, or maybe they fought against a giant fish monster.
I'd be acceptable with either or at this point, knowing how the writing is.
I'm sure it's going to be something, like, so bizarre, but it'll make sense.
It's going to be like why Scrooge hates Santa Claus.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for that.
Maybe this year, please. Maybe. I don't know.
So yeah, regarding the Nirvana episode, we asked what's a good term for fish racists. Yeah, so we have people, Pistophobia or Pistophobia. I honestly can't pronounce that, my apologies. The thing is, like, I looked up, like, what the fear of fish was, and I don't even think I can pronounce it. Ichthyophobia or something. I can't read that to save my life, but yeah, that's apparently the fear for fish. There's also Galeophobia, fear of sharks, and then there's even a fear of mermaids, serene phobia, which is weird since Serene is like the goddess of the moon, but...
No, that's Celine.
Oh, true. Close enough. But the point is there's a term for it, so yeah, I guess Della's a pishist. A vicious pishist.
I guess.
I guess.
Lena actually mentioned getting her shirt from the lead singer of the Featherweights back in Beagle Birthday Massacre. Yeah, she did. Yeah,
I love that was like a throwaway line, and yet it came back. It was a good sweater, though.
Yeah.
Does anybody else want to go punch Glamor in the face?
Well, I mean, if she's the mother of Mark Beaks by principle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know what's weird, though? I actually don't hate her as much as I should. Like, I do, because she's obviously one of those, you know, snobby fashionistas or whatever who thinks it's their God-given right to say what's good and what's not, and kind of gives them a God complex and stuff. But then, like, she did that whole spiel to Louie, who she can tell from the get-go was trying to smooze her, and, like, she saw right through his bullshit and, like, told him off, like, exactly how it is. And I just couldn't help but admire that in a weird way. It's not like she allowed him to continue the ruse, and then she kind of, like, you know, fed into it just to, like, tear him down in sort of, like, a vicious way. She's just like, no, you're fake. Get going. You're basic.
We don't have time for your nonsense.
I feel also another part of that is, like, we don't really know her that well. We've only just got introduced to her, so I can't really establish as much of a hate as I have for, you know, Mark Beaks, because we've seen him plenty of times. We know exactly how he operates, and he just keeps getting worse.
Yeah. Everyone keeps saying that Donald and Daisy had a toxic relationship. Keep in mind that in this show, Scrooge is in love with a kleptomaniac, and Fenton is in love with a foul agent. Okay, I totally disagree with this. Please allow me to explain before you bombard me with hate comments. So, yeah, for anyone who's never actually grown up with the Donald and Daisy shorts, if you watch them, they are, like, you can tell they are one of, like, the worst couples ever. A lot of it was from their mutual anger issues. A lot of it was him just, you know, being an asshole, and her actually being abusive and stuff. And in this version, yeah, they still are angry, but they don't take it out on each other. In fact, they complement each other. And in regard to Scrooge and Goldie, keep in mind that they are exes for a reason. They actually acknowledge that they're exes, and...
They're on again, off again.
Yeah, they're on again, off again, but the thing is, like, they have a chemistry to them. Like, they have the whole Batman-Catwoman thing going on.
Also, Goldie is not a kleptomaniac.
No.
To her, stealing is a game, especially from Scrooge.
Yeah, if anything, she does it just to, like, piss him off, just because she knows it'll get to him, the same way he knows it'll get to her. It's like a game of cat and mouse, basically. Not to mention, like, to Goldie's credit, as much as she yearns to, you know, get riches, she never actually tries to fool Scrooge into, like, marrying her or anything so she can have his inheritance. So, you know, give her credit for that. And as for Fenton and Gandra D, like, he called her out on her bullshit as soon as he found out. Like, if this was toxic, he would have deluded himself into thinking, oh no, she truly loves me, and then, like, stayed that way until she, like, viciously betrayed him.
No, he is not in love with her. There is maybe an infatuation. There was definitely an infatuation and to begin with. And he may still be carrying something of a, you know, crush. But no, that is not love.
No.
And also, he doesn't know she's a foul agent.
Yeah, not yet.
Not yet, anyway. But no, even then, he didn't even know at first that she was working for Beaks. It's like...
But as soon as he found out about it, that was the end of that. So
Yeah.
it's like, nope.
Yeah, no, there's...
I mean, granted, it might come up again later since, you know, I'm guessing she's going to reveal herself to be an agent, and then he's going to have to fight her as Gizmo Duck. But, I mean, we'll probably cross that bridge when it comes to it. Either something's going to happen, and maybe she'll end up, you know, betraying Fowl to help him. Who knows? That might be a plot point in the future. But the point is, they're not a couple now, and, you know, they're definitely not toxic in the sense that this is implying. Again, watch the old Donald Daisy cartoons, and then watch Louie's 11, and tell me if you see the difference.
Since Mickey can't be in the show, can Minnie appear?
I doubt it. I feel like she has the same rights attached to her that Mickey does.
I know, like, because they're kind of like they're a package in a sense. Like, I mean, they could do a thing. They could do a thing where kind of like what happened last season, where they had like
the Mickey melon,
and then they have like a mini melon, and they do it that way. But
Yeah.
I mean,
I feel like in that case they'd have to like go into Donald's mind and have like them exploring things, and then like he has like a Mickey melon that he envisions, and it's married to a mini melon.
Yes. That's the only way how
or since some Mickey melon was eaten at the end, he comes back as a Force ghost or something. Wouldn't be the first time.
Why are we killing off imaginary?
Like Huey, we're not good at imagination. I mean, they possibly could reference Minnie, but I don't feel like they'd outright have Minnie in the show, and especially considering, you know, we only lost Rusty Taylor last year, so it kind of seems it seems too soon and a little poor taste to like, you know, introduce Minnie like in the series, at least at this point. So again, they probably will reference her, but not actually have her in it. That's my guess.
Kind of like what they did with Mickey.
Yeah.
Anyone else think Lena and Boyd would have a lot to talk about? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think both of them, you know, they're creations, they're not real, created by, you know, some evil person. Yeah.
One was created through magic, and the other was created through technology. I would think, like, Lena would understand the technology part of it, for the most part, mostly because she had the ability to, she was able to hang around for, like, much of Season 1 before reappearing again in Season 2, which gave her exposure to all, like, to the world of DuckTales and Duckburg and with all the technobabble stuff. So she pretty much already has a working knowledge of it. It's Boyd who will probably be so confused with all the magic stuff because he's wired as, you know, programmed on sheer logic.
True.
That he can't, that the idea of like magical things would be like, it would
True,
but
I do
compute.
maybe not compute, but I think he would be curious. He does seem like kind of open-minded.
Okay.
It'd probably be like Huey in that he doesn't believe it until he actually sees it, and then he puts it down in the journal, and then he acknowledges that it exists.
He tries to logic it. Yeah, he tries to figure out the logic behind it. I mean, that's assuming, but I mean, another thing is, I don't think he's got quite the emotional baggage that Lena has, though granted he could very much relate without realizing that he's relating.
I mean, for all we know, Boyd could have easily killed a bunch of people, considering he did attack the freaking, like, equivalent of Tokyo.
Yeah.
And I know that it's tradition in a lot of these Japanese movies that they don't really show the bodies, but you know a lot of people died. My poor murder babies.
Oh, and also, both of them are adopted now.
Yeah. They both have adopted families.
Yeah.
Big pro-adoption, this show. I like it.
I wonder who Strongbeard is supposed to be based on. I don't think it's really based on, like, any one particular wrestler, per se. It's just more of, like, a generic kind of just, you know, big dude, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I tried looking it up online, but I only saw one god that actually got their power from their hair, but it was, like, a woman. And it was, like, more like her beauty and, like, healing or whatever. But, yeah, I don't really know any gods that, like, get their power directly from, you know, their hair or their beard or stuff. If anything, maybe it's based on Thor, I guess. It's because he's known for, like, his luscious red hair or whatever, but...
Or if we want to go biblical, maybe, like, what, like, was it Samson or something, or what's his?
Yeah,
what's his-
Samson from the Bible. I mean, that could be it. Although I have a theory, given what I read on IMDb, is that they mentioned he was like from this he hailed from this one town, which apparently is a fictional town in this show that was written by people who play Dungeons and Dragons. So it's very well he could have been a Dungeons and Dragons character, which I would totally buy because somebody would totally make up a character like that with overpowered beard powers.
Yeah.
Stop scratching your beard. We know you're hiding power in there. I like it. I wish this was longer. Also, let's be YouTube friends. No, YouTube spam bot. I do not want to be friends with you. I do not want to be spammed to hell by you, because you do not exist. As I checked later on, yes, your account was deactivated, so no, we cannot be friends. I am sorry.
Okay, clearly this episode was made more for wrestling fans and less fans of Ragnarok. I've seen 3 people who aren't wrestling fans, including myself, and we thought that this episode was okay. However, you guys seem to be eating this episode up. Well, that's just because I used to watch a lot of wrestling back in the day, and so when I see something like this, it's like, I remember all this. So, I mean, if anything, I have more of a working knowledge of wrestling than these two.
Yeah.
I am not a wrestling fan by any stretch of the imagination.
But I have enough of a working knowledge to, like, appreciate this sort of thing. I mean, you didn't care for it? Alright, that's fine. I mean, that's fine. There's plenty of other episodes, because DuckTales is one of those shows that plays around with, like, different themes and stuff for each episode, and sometimes it'll hit with certain people, and other times it won't. But it's still an enjoyable episode, regardless, though, because of the theme of trying to be a hero, and being a hero doesn't necessarily always mean the right thing, and that's the message driving home this episode. And I still like that too. I mean, all the other stuff with the wrestling stuff, that's secondary compared to what they were trying to do in the episode. And this was a fun episode.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I said, I'm not a wrestling fan by any stretch of the imagination, but basically, in part because of the internet being a thing, and also back in the 90s, back when I was a kid growing up in the 90s, I had a friend who was very big into wrestling.
Oh, God,
and occasionally, we'd play, WrestleMania on Super Nintendo, just, by that stuff, I kind of enjoy, I get references, so I think, a lot of, and especially the fact that it's just played so over the top too.
That's wrestling in a nutshell.
Yes, it is.
I think it's I could really care less about wrestling, but from what I know of it, from what just how well this episode was written, it's very enjoyable, very funny.
I also love how Tormund from Game of Thrones is
the giant snake monster.
Yes.
The Jorgamander or something. I can't pronounce those names. I'm not going to try. But yeah, I do like how it was structured, for people that weren't fans of wrestling, explaining, what a heel was and everything, and listing off all the moves and all that. It actually kind of provides some instruction, so you're not like, huh, what? What's going on? So, plus, again, I also grew up in the 90s, and, particularly during 6th grade, my entire class was into WWF and all that, and dear God, I couldn't turn a corner without somebody quoting Stone Cold or The Rock or whatever.
Yeah.
That was everywhere. Dear God, for an entire year, every time somebody said something, someone would yell, "What?"
or when everybody would ask you a question, you'd start to answer. It's it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what. But also. And also I wanted to mention, I didn't bring it up during the review, but I wanted so bad to make a Steven Universe reference. Those of you fans know what I'm talking about. Tiger Millionaire! He's back, man! In the form of Scrooge McDuck!
Do you think Season 4 will be a Webby season or not? It's likely, assuming they do Season 4. It would only make sense, given that she's basically the 4th, sibling.
Even if she triplet.
Yeah. Triplet. No, that's Fooey.
Screw Fooey.
Yeah.
He had his chance.
Fooey gets it. Surprise! But no, I think that is a very real possibility, and yeah, I mean, honestly, if it's not the Beakley centered season as we think it to be right now, I think definitely that would be the ultimate chance to get more backstory on how Webby came to be with Scrooge, how she and Beakley both came to be at Scrooge's mansion. Why, Beakley no longer is an agent, or at least, by all appearances, is not an agent for Shush. And why, whatever happened to her parents.
Yeah, I mean, definitely season 4, like, if they don't fully address it by the end of season 3, they're gonna address it in season 4. Because they've already started building upon that. It makes no sense not to go that route. I mean, maybe season 4 will be her coming to terms with the truth that she learns.
Yeah, I should course correct a bit, too, in that I said, how they came to be at the mansion, in terms of how they got to be at the mansion full time. Because obviously, Beakley and Scrooge had the relationship with Shush.
Right.
So obviously they were, co-workers / friends. So, yeah, just more to, how Beakley came to come on as a, assistant to Scrooge.
Which triplet do you think has the potential of taking Scrooge's place as an adventurer if Scrooge ever passes away? Scrooge will never die. But yeah, eventually, for whoever is going to take over for him, I have 2 theories. One is that all 3 triplets take over for him, because they each embody an aspect of Scrooge's personality, of his, ability as an adventurer, and it only makes sense that all 3 of them will work together to be able to live up to the legacy he's established. Not to mention, in the old DuckTales, there were episodes where they actually did take over his company for like a day to run it. And granted, they messed it up horribly, but the point is, it was always the 3 of them working together to, uphold his company. And then the other theory is that he chooses Webby to take over.
That really makes the most sense, given how much hero worship she has for Scrooge, how she basically wants to be Scrooge.
It would only make sense to, her character's, fondest dream is, she finally gains his company and everything to continue the legacy. And granted, she's not, a duck or, McDuck or anything, but she's still family. He's told her.
He's acknowledged. He's told her to call him Uncle Scrooge.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, since adoption's a big thing in this show, definitely he could legally adopt her. So, she would legally inherit the company. I could see that working out very well.
Or just kind of a mashup of what you were saying, option 3 is all 4 of them.
All 4 of them. That's what I was thinking.
The Adventure Incorporated.
Yeah.
I could see that. That would be pretty cool. And it's just the 4 of them traveling the world. And then just... Although I gotta say, if I were Della and Donald, I'd feel pretty jilted.
Della, I think, lost her chance. Or that she'll have to, earn it back. But given that, her winding up on the moon was her own fault, that's a big strike against her. And of course, Donald is Donald.
Donald has no interest.
Yeah, Donald has no interest. He wouldn't want to continue. He would rather stay at home.
No.
And,
I'm just saying, they grew up on, adventuring with Scrooge, too. You think, to an extent, they'd want to be somewhat involved, but whatever. I guess as long as they're in the will, it doesn't matter.
I could tell you, Donald would not be the least bit interested in taking over the company. The only thing is, him geting the profits, but that's it.
As long as he still keeps his boat. As long as his houseboat, he doesn't care.
As long as it doesn't blow up again. Just let him retire on his houseboat with Daisy and go into the sunset. I'm sure everybody will be happy.
Exactly.
That's the Disney way.
That is the Disney way.
That is the Disney way. Louie was being the voice of reason, and that was the best part of the episode. Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't give it enough credit the first time I watched, but that honestly was my favorite scene in that entire episode. Because when you think about it, it was a big, to use a wrestling term, heel turn in terms of both Dewey and Huey's arcs. Because Huey was always the guy that, like, knew everything. And, like, he would always consult the journal, always have a way to, like, get around anything. And now, in this episode, where he has to be a commentator for wrestling, he is completely out of his element. And in this episode, he actually admits it. And then with Dewey, like, he was, like, the devil-may-care, like, adventurer who, you know, runs headfirst into danger no matter what. And he, like, wants to follow in Scrooge's footsteps. Like, he's said it from the beginning. You know, he goes up to any challenge he can. But then this episode happens where him being the hero is not working. And it's, in fact, damaging his self-esteem so much to the point where he actually questions whether or not he's worthy to live up to Scrooge's legacy. So, like, that to me was, like, really powerful. And then, of course, you have Louie, who, the opportunistic he is. He's totally within character, but then he comes in, sees his brothers are down, and he builds them right back up again.
And it's also, like I said, it's a big credit to, you know, that his arc from last season, it definitely shows his growth.
Yeah, because he usually takes the easy way out. He's so lazy, he doesn't really, like, care unless there's something in it for him. But in this case, like, you know, he sees his brothers are down, but he reminds them, you know, what their strengths are and to play to it. And, like, that really, to me, was, like, I feel like I understand now why this was the last episode in this part of the season, because I think this is going to be a big turning point from here on out in terms of them and their arcs. Especially for Huey, since this is supposedly his arc for the season.
Yeah.
You're the worst! You're the worst! You're the worst!
Rude!
We hate you now!
We're kidding. We love you all. And we love these questions and comments. And we're glad we were able to answer them for you. And we look forward to more in the future. We truly do. So, yeah, so I guess this is goodbye until the episodes come back, which I haven't heard any news for when that is, but I'm assuming since we haven't seen that Donald Della costumed episode, they might not come back till Halloween. So, who knows? The point is right now is that, you know, we all got to get through this quarantine. We all got to stay safe and healthy and, you know, just, you know, keep on going. So, remember, ducks don't back down. So, with that being said, I'm Kat McBerry.
I'm Eric Stoller.
I'm Doug McBerry.
And again, thank you all for watching us, for all your wonderful comments, and we look forward to seeing you when we come back. Bye.
Bye.